Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. And Happy New Year to everyone. And thank you so much for continuing on this journey with us. And if you're new, welcome. Very exciting. I've had so many people reach out to me on social media and say that they love the podcast. They wish they would have found us when we first started, and they're getting caught up. So really exciting. Thank you to all the new subscribers, and everyone else that's been with us since the beginning. Now, we want to provide you with some great research. We're doing the research for you on these topics. So you get to sit down, take notes if you want to, and go from there. But we are doing the legwork, and we are happy to do it. I want to give recognition to our administrator, Cassie Roop, who has put together a giveaway. And you need to be following us on social media if you're not already. And we have a Facebook group. Go seek us out there. And all you have to do for this giveaway is enter your favorite part of any episode so far, and Cassie will randomly choose somebody and send them a signed copy of Ron's book, The Namesake, The Dirty Side of Leadership book. Ron, what's our new segment?
Well, we're going to do a meme deep dive. We're going to look into either a meme or someone's favorite saying. And we posted that on the Facebook group, but anyone that's listening can contact us with their favorite meme. Please don't be insulted. We're going to do one per week. I mean, at the max 2, but I think it's really cool because the world is just loaded with memes on social media. And I think it's cool that we're going to discuss one. And we did get one. As a matter of fact, we got more than one, but We've got one that we're going to discuss. This was submitted by Carol Berry. And this comes from leadershipright.com. It says, I used to think people only change jobs for money, but now I think most people just want respect and peace of mind.
Yeah, I think
Kristin?
That's powerful. Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. And that's more and more. We talk a lot about how things really changed in 2020, and everyone reflected on where they currently were. And I know for me that really rings true. So I think it does for the vast majority of folks.
I don't want to be a broken record, Kristin, but I had someone tell me about starting a new job, and the climate was terrible. And the onboarding was terrible. And I know we've already done episodes on this, but this person sadly is already looking for another job. To the contrary, I talked to someone that worked at a restaurant. And it's one of those, I don't even know if you have them in Portland. It's like a Waffle House or something. And on rare occasions, like once a month, I will go in there and treat myself.
Good for you.
I love their waffles. They're thin, they're not thick.
Nice.
So anyway, I'm talking to this lady because it's like I was doing intermittent fasting, so I was starved.
Yeah.
So I go in there at like 2 in the day. And we were talking, and I said, so how long have you worked here? And she goes, 14 years. I almost fell off the stool.
Yeah, that's rare.
And she said, yeah, I like the owners and everything. Now, she did admit there's a little bit of a fear element because she'd been there so long.
Yeah.
But overall, I said, they must treat you well. She said, yeah, I really like the owner. He's always been good to me. And I thought, wow, how cool.
Yeah, that is.
We agree, Carol. That's it does seem that people want respect and peace of mind.
Yeah.
For sure.
Ron, I have to give you a hard time. So you broke your fast with a waffle. So I don't know how I feel about this.
Let me go back. I said I love their waffles. That's not what I broke my fast on.
Okay, good.
I broke my fast on scrambled eggs and bacon. But they do have great waffles.
That's
so
amazing.
Maybe I had that for dessert. Who knows?
Okay. All right.
Kristin, just do the podcast, okay?
I know. My husband's always like, you can't let anything go, can you? I'm like, I really can't.
I feel you, Dave. I
really can't. So sorry. I have to, I didn't even tell you this yet, Ron. I had dinner with one of my old employees the other day. Andrea, I know you listen because you told me you've been listening to every single episode, and that meant the world to me. And so here we are catching up. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. She worked for me for, 5 years probably combined. And we're just having a drink and eating. And I wasn't going to, go there and talk about all my stuff. I really wanted to understand what she's been up to. And she started talking about how much she loves our podcast. I'm like, wait, this is awesome. Like, it just means so much to me when someone that worked for you for so long is that invested in your success and actually genuinely loves what we're doing. So thank you so much, Andrea, for your support.
And you know what, Kristin, I don't mean this negatively, but I do get social media posts and I see some people who are leadership experts who've never led. And I think it's a big difference when you go on here and talk and provide some guidance and look at the research and discuss it because you've led. Right. And if I'm going to be led, I want someone who actually understands what leadership is. Catchphrases are cool, but have you been in the trenches? And that's what I love about this podcast. We're vulnerable, we're real, we talk, we get in the trenches and talk about things that I think people don't talk about normally on a podcast or even in a book. So kudos to you, because if you were on here just spitting out lies, Andrea would have called you on it.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And you know what's funny? I had said something, I'm like, combined, we have like 60 plus years leadership experience. I was giving you a little bit of a hard time on that one, but it's so true. I mean, I was a leader for over 20 years and you a bit longer. I'll let you calculate
Watch your words. Watch your words, Kristin.
But yeah, I mean, we're not just talking the talk. We've walked the walk and we know what it's like. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. I had a leadership discussion and we got to get into because this is probably, I'm not joking, the most exciting episode for me and maybe you as well, because I think this is one of the missing ingredients for life. So if you were thinking about turning us off, stay tuned, hang tight for just a minute. I was telling someone one time that we had these temporary employees and my predecessor had renewed everyone. So basically what I'm saying is no one had actually came on board, did their 3-year stint, and then were sent home. So everyone started believing they're going to be permanent. So I knew the beauty of it is you want to bring people for 3 years because they're fresh out of the field. They're bringing fresh ideas. And if they stay there, they're just going to get stale. So it undermines the whole program. So I made the announcement in a staff meeting, no more extensions. When your time is up, you're going home. I've never had a decision. I just thought this was so interesting because I was having a leadership discussion with someone. Those people loathed me. They came, they had meetings. They said, this is not what we were promised. I mean, it was just chaos for like 3 months. These people would barely speak to me. But there were other people, the majority, who saw that I was doing what should be done. Right. We need to stay fresh. So I had these supporters. But I said to someone, when leaders think it's easy and they think there won't be controversy, that decision right there, I kid you not, people loved me on one side of that and they hated me on the other. Right. Now, once it became the fabric and part of the organization, no big deal. As a matter of fact, I added it into their agreement. It says your term is for 3 years. And when I bring them in my office or I'm on the phone with them, I said, you do understand this is a temporary duty assignment. You will not be extended except under emergency circumstances. So it all worked out. But I think what happens, Kristin, number one, people don't understand that their decision is going to be so controversial. But number two, we have a knee-jerk reaction. Then we just, we change it back because we're afraid. And I'm so glad I stuck with that. But I thought that was the greatest example in my career, probably, of the divisiveness of making decisions in leadership.
Right. And then, I know we need to move on into our topic, but on that, there's so much right there where it just shows people need to know what to expect. And if that expectation wasn't set with them up front and you're the one actually enforcing it, you're the first person to be enforcing it in some time, that there, the breakdown is the prior leader who didn't properly communicate that or enforce it. And now you're having to come in and be the bad guy, and all you're doing is enforcing what should have been in place in the first place, right? So there's so much there. And then it also just shows the importance of when you are going to make a decision, make sure you've thought through the ramifications and everything that goes along with it, which you did, but so many don't. And the minute you change and like you did, and you say, we're going to be going in this direction, and then you get backlash and then you go back, you're weak. No one will respect you again. So
it's absolutely true. We will unpack that sometime because, of course, I notified the middle managers first. You don't want to throw out an announcement like that and your management team get caught off guard.
Right.
So there's a lot to unpack there, but it was fresh on my mind because I just had the discussion with someone, and people think they're going to take a leadership role or management role and not have conflict. And it's ridiculous. But anyway,
I think that's great. That's a whole episode on making tough decisions.
Yeah.
Well, I know, Ron, that you conduct training on the topic of unstoppable habits, right? And you've mentioned this in prior episodes, that habits are one of the most important words, that leadership, basically putting a habit in place and actually carrying through with it, is one of the most important things you can do in every facet of life. And so we named this episode Unstoppable Habits, and you're going to, this is going to be an episode where we really dive into how to have unstoppable habits. And, just one thing to throw out there real quick. Everyone knows there's so many memes going around right now on people that join the gym in January and then they're gone in 6 weeks, if not earlier. And you become a cliche. And so this is just really about how do we break that and actually help you continue throughout the year and years with the habits that you so much desire to have.
Yeah. And Kristin, every human being battles with something.
Mm-hmm.
And I have battled, and we're going to be very vulnerable. Kristin and I talked before this, but I am determined to help people reach their goals. That's why I do what I do. And I know you do as well, Kristin. So we're going to hit this hard, and we're here to tell you, if you will stick with us on this episode, I believe it has the potential to change your life, change the future. So here's the deal. Unstoppable habits. I always say this, whatever your habits are, they define you. And your habits will also serve us in private. You might change the way you do things in public, but when no one's looking, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a way to gauge, really, if it's a deep habit, you always revert back to it. But here's a word that's not talked about enough, and it's a word that's actually the enemy. And it's going to sound contradictory here. The enemy is comfort. So habits equal consistency. Consistency equals success. But comfort will keep you from reaching that level of success. In other words, comfort and discipline are diametrically opposed to one another. And I know that all sounds so weird, but we're gonna mention this. But this is me being vulnerable. And I've mentioned this, and you and I talked about it, Kristin. I think because I worked in such a stressful environment, I always had to be up, dark 30, putting on a suit and all that stuff, showering, shaving, all that. That now in my life, I don't have to get up, especially at, 5:30, 6 a.m. But at night, I watch TV. It's so peaceful, and I love it. It's comfortable. It's very comfortable.
Right.
But what happens is I'm watching a cool show, and then I may decide, I can watch a little bit of the next episode because I am a BW, binge watcher. And so I just made that up, everybody. Feel free to spread it on.
I was thinking, I haven't heard that.
I'm a trendsetter, Kristin.
Yeah. Hashtag.
Not to be confused with VW.
Yeah.
That's the voluntary withdrawal that I was watching the other night. Okay.
Right.
So I love to set up at night. So the hardest thing for me to do is cut off the TV, go to bed early. I feel like I'm missing out on something or I missed that time. So it's comfort. It is very comfortable for me. But here's the problem. Comfort is almost always short term. So the next day I feel a little sluggish because no matter what I do, I'm going to wake up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I already know that. So for me to feel rested, I have to go to bed a little earlier. So the enemy there for me is the comfort that I love late at night. And it would be great, by the way, if I didn't wake up early and, feel sluggish and not feel myself. What
Right.
about you, Kristin? What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Well, I was sharing with you about the same thing. Because I am not having to get up and get out of the house at 7 a.m. now. For a while there, I was staying up and watching TV, binge watching also. And the other thing that changed for me was my husband was night shift before. So I would just lay in the comfort of my bed and watch whatever I wanted without judgment, right? Because he's at work. And stay up later than I should. Same thing in the morning, I'd be dragging. But now my husband's been day shift for about a year, and I'm going to bed at 10:30. And I'm finding that the next day for me, I'm just much more lively and get more accomplished. But that is my struggle. I guess you would call a night owl. I would rather be up
Yeah.
late and kind of just decompress a bit, but I've let it go too far in the past.
Well, here's an example. Of course, it's New Year's, and I've got a board full of things, but a lot of that stuff, and some of you listening, you already have some great habits, and I already had some great habits. There's things on my board that I already knew I was going to do. I wrote them down just for a matter of record, and I can check them off as a victory. But the new thing, one of my goals, I mentioned 2 weeks ago or last week about hydrating more. And the other one is getting to bed earlier. And I will tell you, Kristin, I went to bed earlier last night and I got up. I had a coaching call this morning. Then I went for a run and worked out in the gym and came back, did some more work. Of course, we did some more research and I talked to you on the phone, did some more research for this episode. But my point is I'm so much more productive. I feel so much better right now than I have on previous episodes. So we will get into it, but something's got to become a priority. But before we go there, I want to give a little bit more on brain health so people understand why they don't reach their goals. Have you ever gone outside and you walk out and it's colder than you thought it was? Immediately, without thinking, I almost guarantee your brain is going to send you back in the house to get a jacket. Our brain, not only does our brain want to protect us, it wants us to be comfortable. So I've talked a lot about the prefrontal cortex and how we think, left brain, right brain. But the amygdala in the brain stores our emotions and our memories. And what happens is that amygdala, by the way, if you study the human brain, this is a side note, how can you say there's no God? It's just unbelievable. But anyway, I was sitting there last night, I was doing study and I'm going, oh my goodness, yeah, Big Bang, no. So anyway, the amygdala is designed to make us comfortable. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. So that means, though, picture this together, if the amygdala is bringing up old memories and it has a desire for comfort, why do we hear the saying comfort food, right?
Right, yeah.
So that's the reason our brain wants us to be comfortable.
And your comfort food is waffles, right?
Yeah. Man, I'm getting hungry. Sorry, folks, I have to go. I can't control my impulses.
I razzed you. So my comfort food, just bringing it up, chili cheese fries. And I'm so bummed because I turned my diet around as of a couple hours ago. So I'm starting on my health approach for the year right now. But I was
10 minutes ago.
Like 10 minutes ago. I ate a boiled egg for breakfast. So that was my start. But I was so ticked at myself that I didn't have my favorite comfort food in December when I was just kind of letting it all hang out. But anyhow, yeah, we have that comfort food for a reason. And it doesn't mean, we're not saying you can't ever do it. We're saying earn it.
Kristin, you missed the biggest part of that story. It's not about the waffle. People with sophisticated palates absolutely would not set foot in a Waffle House because they don't have a great reputation, but they cook the food right in front of you. Like I almost like that better than restaurants that go somewhere in a cave and cook and bring it back out. But
Absolutely.
my point, the point I'm making is I love to what people would call, I'm not, but what people would call different levels of class or sophistication or whatever they would call it. And I love going to places sometime where I can literally just talk to blue collar workers
Yes.
who are honest and great people, and they inspire me. And, I had that great conversation when I was there. But obviously, you don't have Waffle House, or that's probably what you would have said to me.
Exactly. I bet they do a good chili cheese fry there. I can just
I
see
bet
it.
they
A
do.
nice greasy spoon.
Let's open one in Portland. Come on.
Yeah. I don't even want to know the clientele it would bring in here. Oh, goodness. Okay. So I love this. I love that you're talking about that. So your brain is designed to protect you. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've jumped into that, and I think that's amazing. We've talked a lot about brain health in prior episodes, and I think it's just incredible that we continue to touch on that. And I want to talk about, so basically you're saying that many of our stored memories are connected to failure, right? So, for example, if somebody had a goal in 2023 to lose weight, but didn't reach that intended goal, the brain is going to store that journey, but then also focuses on the failure to complete the goal. And the amygdala has another failure to record.
That's exactly right. And the problem with failure, we'll talk a little more, is once you feel defeated, you're defeated, and that should not be. We defined resilient not long ago, but resilience and efficacy are things. It's designed to help us start again, and that's where you and I discussed about giving ourselves grace. But anyway, we'll move into that. But last week, when you and I were talking about New Year's resolutions, we mentioned very specifically long-term goals and short-term goals, because sometimes a vision, like we said before, I'm going to be healthy, prosperous, wise, our vision statement, the mission are those steps that you need to do to get there. What happens in those steps, if you break them down, it helps you establish new habits. So let's use the example of me going to bed early. Let's say that I go to bed at 10:30, 3 nights in a row. I feel great. Life is good. But all of a sudden, I get distracted. I'm either hooked on a Netflix show. Someone needs me to take them to the airport, which seems to happen all the time. I get stressed out. Something happens, and I'm like, screw it. I'm going to set up late tonight.
Right.
Because that part of my brain, the amygdala, it wants me to be comfortable. And the stress, it's like if you squeeze a sponge, whatever's inside that sponge is going to come out. And 3 nights is not long enough. I want to be very clear to our listeners. 3 days is not long enough to establish these new habits, these unstoppable habits. So I would set up late and then go back to my routine, or feel like a failure and just say, the heck with it. I'm going to set up to midnight, 1, 2 in the morning all the time. So just know, I think by discussing brain health and understanding how the brain works, it helps us to reach our goals, because I want you to remind yourself in that moment, and what your goals are if you're listening. In that moment, I want you to say, wait a minute, I've been distracted, I'm stressed, my brain is wanting to take me to comfort, but I need to stick to the script. I need to stay on target with my goals. This will make a difference, and we're going to give you some more stuff about unstoppable habits.
Yeah, that's powerful. If you know what is happening, you can work around it. I want to talk about something I shared in our prior episode, and that's one of my goals this year. We talk about long-term goals, and for me, it's to declutter and be a tidier person. And so basically, I might start to get organized, but then I'll get distracted and I get busy, get stressed, or in the situation would just start to maybe toss the clothes back on the chair in the bedroom that I haven't I haven't seen the actual seat of the chair in some time. But those habits would start to come back because I've lost that focus. And this is because I don't have that memory stored that aligns with organization or that overall tidiness. Does that kind of align with what you're telling us, Ron?
That is perfect. That's a great example. And when we're establishing, I mentioned one time, it's funny. You read stuff on the internet. It says it takes 21 days to start a new habit.
Right.
And we tell people all the time, know you, get a PhD in you. You have to understand yourself. You might be able to develop a new habit quickly, or maybe you don't. But you are exactly right. I hate to keep saying amygdala, but that is the component. It does not have an organized part of the brain to draw from. So as you continue to do it, and I know you wouldn't do this, but let's just say that, you've got a workstation and you've got sticky notes everywhere, and you clean those sticky notes up and you've got everything organized. You get stressed out, you start putting more sticky notes, and then your brain's going to say, well, you can straighten it up later.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I know is I'm guilty of this. And then all of a sudden you look, your desk is in disarray again, because you did not, when you were distracted, stressed, whatever, you went back to those old memories. And I promise you, folks, if you're listening, you're going to train the brain. We've said it over and over. You're going to train the brain.
Right.
Now, I thought when we were doing this, and this is not a sales pitch, folks, but Kristin and I decided to do a planner. And I know, I had somebody go, man, that's so cool. That's a great idea. I wish I'd have thought of that. And I was thinking, careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Because that planner didn't just come together. That's part of long-term and short-term goals. Kristin and I discussed it, and then we started divvying up responsibilities. You can talk a little bit about that, Kristin, because you started adding to it, and there's nothing wrong with I didn't say this last week, the vision should be etched in stone. The mission should be fluid.
Right.
Because you may need to change course.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is you have this basic outline or the foundation of what you want to do. And then it's how you get there that you're going to have different approaches. And so I know in the beginning, Ron and I, so we both had an idea of we wanted to have it be personalized, right? Where it was pretty obvious that we put it together, we were bought in on the planner. This was really important to us, that it was something that we would both actually use and benefit from in our day-to-day lives. And then we also reflected on, okay, so what would it look like for us in our personal lives, and then for us in our business lives, right? So we wanted to make sure it worked all around. And so just understanding the total goal and thinking of everybody's different personalities and career paths and personal lives, that's where we landed on the final product. And you had to brainstorm quite a bit. You had to delegate different tasks, and we got there, and it's beautiful.
And that is how you get there. And this is for parents, if you're listening. You need to condition your kids to finish whatever they start, whether it's a project. This happened to me last week. I was with my little grandson, and I bought him a puzzle. He's really into puzzles. So I bought him one. It's kind of a thick one. It's not real complicated. It's like a Mickey Mouse thing. And we put it together once, and he's really good. And I bragged on him, of course. Well, then he said, let's do it again. I said, okay. So we broke it apart. We started putting it together. For some unknown reason, halfway through, he just went, and started breaking it apart and throwing it. I said, no, sir, buddy. We finish. If we start a task, we finish it. So, and he got it. He said, okay. And we started back, and he had to put that puzzle together. I know that seems so small, but parents, and by the way, maybe you were never taught that in your entire life. I used to have people under supervision come out of prison. They'd never completed the task in their life. Matter of fact, they'd never had to honor time agreements. So I made it a very big deal if they showed up in my office 15 minutes late, even 5 minutes late for that matter. So teach yourself, you finish task, you complete what you start. You may have to change the message, but the method, you may have to change the method. The message doesn't change. You may have to be fluid, but you're going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. I actually just did that with my son yesterday. We were doing Happy New Year's. Every single holiday we change these. We have these large chalkboards in the house, and so we change over and design them for every holiday. My son has one, my daughter has one. But my son was halfway through and he's like, I don't like my design. I'm over it. And he just left it unfinished. And I was like, no, 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 no. Get back over there and you finish it and you give it your all. And he did. But if I would have just let it go, then he would know that that's acceptable. And it's not. You have to finish what you started. Even if you don't like how it's going, then
Yep.
you can erase it and start over, but you don't just leave it half finished.
It's a small nugget for him that if you keep adding to that later in life, it's gonna come through from school assignments to
Right.
college to work.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's amazing, but it's those small things.
Absolutely. I know I was going to share, something with podcast prep and just responsibilities in general. We talked earlier that we do quite a bit of research when we're putting together podcast episodes. 'Cause we have our experiences to draw on, but when we're putting together the foundation, especially when we're talking about how, the brain health and just everything that goes into thought process, we're putting so much into it. So I know that, really what motivates me to meet these responsibilities is one huge piece is being able to hear from people who listen to the podcast and listen to the episodes and get their feedback. But the other thing is we have a responsibility. I mean, this is just at its basic level. Ron and I have committed to each other that we are going to make this great and we're going to draw on our past experiences, learn a bunch of new stuff that's awesome and nuanced and share it with listeners. And so really what helps us when we're getting ready for podcast episodes is one, just the commitment factor. We have this commitment to something and we're carrying through on that. And then to give it our all and do the research and really deep dive into the topics that a lot of people don't touch, and if they do touch it, they don't go deep enough. And so it's so many factors that play into that. So it's really important to understand what's going to drive you and help you be successful in everything you do.
That's exactly right. So I wanted to cover a little bit more about distractions. For me, it was stress. I had trouble saying the word no. You need to listen to that episode if you haven't, the one word that will change your life. But I took on a lot of responsibility and I did have a weighty job. I had to go to DC a lot. I was over in academy and people think that sounds cool, but there were so many moving parts and idiosyncrasies that I had to deal with and human beings, all the things that require a lot of involvement, but also create stress. And if you don't know how to handle that stress, it will really set you back. So I had to recognize, and you have to do this for yourself if you're listening, you have to recognize what are the distractions. They can come in so many forms that you don't even realize it. And it might just be little time stealers that's taking you away from things that should be your priority. So recognize your distractions and begin to realize, even if you do get pulled off, you got to get back up quickly. I love this quote. It says, be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every year find you a better man. And that was Benjamin Franklin. And that was on your post, Kristin, for New Year's of you and I.
That's awesome.
And it flowed so well. Now, he was saying vices. He means, of course, things you do that's not honorable, but it can also apply to, any distraction that pulls you off course. So as we do that, when I would succumb to stress, here's what happened. I would not sleep well. I would get sick, and it ended up costing me way more than it would have if I'd have just handled the stress in the first place. So I ended up having to take a day off work or whatever it was. So we have to get those stressors, those vices, those distractions in check, recognize them, and also realize that they are the enemy.
Right. Oh, they absolutely are. So I know you're going to help us understand how to develop new habits that will slowly replace the old habits.
Yeah. And again, I want to stress that this takes time. But what we want to do is you break down a habit in chunks instead of like, we mentioned Cassie earlier. She ran a marathon. Well, she certainly didn't, just run a marathon. She had to break it down, and she was posting the length of time that she ran. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is to start small and do something over and over and over. Let's use me. I go to bed at 10:30, whatever the time may be, but I'm saying, and I do it over and over. So it gets to the point that 11 o'clock appears late to me, whereas 11 o'clock used to appear early to me. So that sets me on a different course. I am reprioritizing my life, and we will think about that. So we're going to train the brain. The amygdala is going to have those positive reinforcements that I have used, the successes that I've used to draw upon. And that way, when I do get distracted, I've already started building the new habit. Again, if you do, fail, get back on the horse, as they say, and keep going. Now, I'm going to use one more quick example. I've talked about this a lot. In the morning, I try to do some kind of light exercise, and then I take a regular shower, but the last part of my shower, I put it on cold. Now, I dread that, but I'm also excited about it because I know in my mind, I've got a memory. I feel exhilarated. I know that it helps skin. I know that it helps arthritis and bone health and all these things. You can read hydrotherapy. So what has happened is I used to dread it a lot, but now I almost look forward to it because I have a memory of me getting out of the shower, looking awesome, of course, and getting out of the shower. And I have that memory of the exhilaration.
Right.
2 days ago, Kristin, I was in a hurry, had a lot on my mind. I got out of the shower, dried off, and was totally justified. When I thought of it, I did forget, but when I thought of it, I totally justified I'm busy. And I thought, oh my God, I'm doing exactly what this podcast is going to be about.
Right.
So I wanted to really bring realism to this and show how we deal with it and bring some real life examples that I think will help people.
Yeah. I love that you do the cold finish. I know my husband does it also. I do it too. And it is something, I don't know if you agree with this, but for me, it's mental prep. Like I have to actually, one, it's building that habit, but two, you have to mentally be ready for it, because what I've done in the past is I've almost forgotten to turn it to cold at the end. And so then I just willy-nilly turn it cold. And then I realize that my breathing is off. I'm not able to stay in as long. I'm almost in this like freak out survival mode, versus if I would have thought about it and it be a true routine where it's gonna happen routinely every single shower, then I would have been able to stay in a lot longer, and it wouldn't have been this almost panic experience.
Yes.
And I've done that. Gosh, it was this week when I did that. I was almost done. I completely forgot the cold shower. And then I just went, oh, shoot. And I ranked it over to cold. Wasn't mentally prepped. I was like, and I had to turn it off. I couldn't hack it. And that just showed me the power of being mentally ready for it and having that be a true routine that your body, like you said, not only is used to, but craves. I love that. It's so true. The health benefits, but also you start to crave that experience at the end.
That's exactly right. In this episode, we won't go into too much detail, but let's say I wake up, I make my bed, I do the light exercise, then I go in, take the shower, do the cold shower. Psychologically, I've completed 3 tasks already in the morning. And we have talked about before, mark your victories. Guess what? That's a victory. I've already won 3 battles that morning. I'm also building positive memories, but I do want to mark that as a victory, because if I forget the cold shower, I really did feel like I lost that day a couple days ago. By the way, I'd take another shower. I'm a very clean guy, everybody, if you're listening. I took another shower because, I work out, and I did the cold shower. I made myself do it in the evening to make up for the morning. So I think you're getting the point of where we're heading, but we have to establish, this is another step if you're taking notes, and I will, Kristin or I will put these in steps in the show notes just to help, because I know we've not really numbered them for you. But you have to set priorities, and that priority has to become very important. So comfort is your enemy, but priority is your friend. So those priorities have to become so important to you. I always tell people that to overcome fear, one of the steps is your passion to succeed. That priority becomes more important than that fear that's holding you back. You got to want it. You got to absolutely want, you got to say out loud, I am not going to have the same year that I did last year. I'm going to reach my goals. And as you begin to record victories, your brain remembers that. Now I'm going to tie another one in here, and that's positive self-talk. We've talked a lot about this, Kristin, and we've talked about my sticky notes on the mirror, but you can convince yourself to win. You can talk yourself into great things, because there's going to be a ton of voices there's negative thoughts coming in your mind, and maybe it's people talking negative to you. I've had so much negativity spoken to me. Of course, for me, it fueled me to succeed even more, but establish your priorities and then learn to talk to yourself. Don't worry about if people think you're crazy. Now, do it in private, probably, but speak those words. And if you're around people, and this is interesting, but I was sitting in another place and I heard two guys talking. A guy walks in, and the guy goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" He said, "Same shit, different day." And it's funny, it really is, but I'm saying imagine that over and over and over. You, and I called it in a post, brain poop. You're just building up that brain poop, and you never flush it out. I encourage people in positive self-talk, also think about, in one episode I said we call it an alarm clock when it should be an opportunity clock. Try to start taking or speaking positively. And in my trainings, Kristin, I challenge people to go on a negativity diet, which means, think about it. Our whole language, I'm dying to go. My head's killing me. I laugh myself to death. I know it's innocent, but I'm saying we are designed to lean negatively.
Right.
And imagine if you started to speak words of power and positivity and success, and also encouraging others. All of this is a part of this process of having those unstoppable habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just share one thing that I had an aha moment on within the past 2 weeks. Ron, have you ever watched Married at First Sight or even heard of it?
I think you might have said it, but
you're
yes.
you're not missing much. But the reason I even bring it up, it's one of those shows that you can just watch. It's like mindful TV, or excuse me, mindless TV, right? Sometimes I crave that because I'm always doing research into heavy topics. But anyhow, the concept is two people, they literally meet for the first time on the altar and they get married, and then they have to work everything out. So this one that really resonated with me, the guy was a fitness trainer in perfect shape, and he was just very on top of life habits. Now, his wife that he met, she was so great in so many ways, but something that really bothered him about her was the fact that he liked to tidy up the house at the end of the day, no matter if it's midnight or what. He wanted that house tidied so that when he woke up in the morning, that he was waking up to a clean environment, which I completely understand. So the point that I'm making is I get where he's coming from, but with her, because she wasn't that way initially, he was willing to just completely write her off because he didn't feel like she was acting like a grown up. Okay, because she just wasn't wired to cleaning, tidying before bed every single night, right? And so the beauty is that as I watched this show continue on, she started picking up those habits and really understanding all the benefits to tidying before bed. And then he also was showing her more grace because it is something she had to learn it. He already had it in place. And so she was learning these great habits and the benefits that come from it. And he was showing her grace throughout her journey. And they ended up staying together, actually, and they're still married.
Wow. Have they
Yeah,
never even seen each other when they come up?
never.
God, now
It's
you've got me
insane.
interested.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like, I can't even fathom, but these 3 psychologists do all this background work. And actually, I feel like the success rate's about 30%, but that's still really
It's
high for
almost as good as a regular
literally.
marriage.
I know, right? And so it's like they've never seen, they have blindfolds on until they are standing up holding hands on the altar. Yeah. But that one for me, I'll be honest, just watching him explain the benefits of tidying before bed,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm bought in. I totally get it. I'm 42, willing to learn new habits
Yeah.
and continue to
I
better
like it.
myself. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. I guess it's time that we start to take this home. There is a line, Kristin, think of it this way. There is a moment, your amygdala, our word of the day, has stored bad memories, and you start to do your new habits. And there is this point, it's like a threshold where you're winning, your good memories, your positivity actually becomes larger than the negative or the comfort that's been holding you back. And that is a beautiful thing. But what I want people to think about is there is that moment where you're close, man, you're getting close. You know, you've worked out every day in January or 5 days a week in January, but distractions happen. Things start to happen. It loses its thrill. The priority isn't as thrilling as it was. That is that moment where you have to either have an accountability partner that we've already talked about, whether you have to double up on the positive self-talk, you have to understand the brain in a deeper level, reestablish those priorities. That's that moment. And that's what happens all the time is Kristin, I bet I've had 10 people come to me and go, yeah, I started writing a book. I got about halfway through, and they call that something like the halftime effect when you're writing a book. Like everybody's written half a book. So it is that moment. And if you're listening, I want you to know ahead of time that you're going to get motivated. You're going to do great. You're going to start marking your victories, positive self-talk. You might miss a day, but you get back on the horse, as we said. But then there's going to be that moment where that priority that was so important but is not quite as important as the comfort that you're missing. And that's your moment right there. And that's when you have to go into battle mode. Right. Everyone, they call it the honeymoon period on a new job. You start out, you love the job, you're excited to meet new people, and all of a sudden the honeymoon runs out. And then it's not exciting. And that's where you have to set your own attitude, your own priorities. Right. You have to make those adjustments. No one can do it for you. You might have a accountability partner, but you are going to have to stand up. And in that moment, you got to say, I'm going to continue to pursue my goals and my dreams, and I am not going backwards. I am buddied up with my amygdala, and we are in this together. I'm sorry, I had to say amygdala one more time. We are in this together, and I'm going to have unstoppable habits. If you are listening, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. But I texted Kristin and said, I'm wearing my unstoppable t-shirt because that's how serious I am about wanting you to reach your goals. And I want to reach my goals. And I know Kristin does as well.
Yes.
So let's rock and roll. Let's get it done this year.
Absolutely. I'm bought in, Ron.
You are?
I'm going to have a tidy household.
You heard it,
year.
folks. Kristin, I'm gonna get you to take the camera.
I know. I was just gonna say you're gonna ask for pictures. My accountability: take a picture of every room in your house.
I can see Kristin calling her neighbor. Listen, I don't have time to explain, but I'm coming over to your house to take some pictures.
Oh my gosh! You know what it reminded me of? There is this new thing where people are taking their Christmas pictures at like a Home Depot kitchen.
Oh, I saw that.
And is that not hysterical? I'm like, oh, that's
it.
really funny. And they have their kids in their little Christmas aprons, acting like they're cooking in this beautiful spotless kitchen, but it's like Home Depot or Lowe's.
Man, I think I'm going to go in some big cathedral and go, good to be back home, and snap a selfie with the columns in the background.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
Oh my gosh. People, we believe in you. We believe in you. We're doing this for a reason. We want all of us to improve and get better. And Kristin, I believe in you. I think you really are going to get organized. You're not going to have to go to Home Depot. you're gonna do
Thank
it,
you.
or a neighbor's house.
Yeah.
We'll give you an update. We will. Especially, we're going to be asking Kristin how it's going with the organization. So,
hey, I have a giant Goodwill pile at my front door right now, and so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Now I just got to get it out of my house to Goodwill. So that's step 2.
2025. There's that.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm not speaking that over you. Positive.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Become
All right.
an enemy of comfort and a friend with discomfort, and your life's going to change.
I love it.
Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.